Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I have two teenagers living with me right now, and if you guys have had that same experience, or you yourself have been a teenager at one point, which I bet everybody watching this channel has been, you know the value of a strategically placed candle in the common areas of the house. We have a bunch of these candles in different areas of the house, and they look fine and dandy sitting on a surface, an end table, a countertop, but I wanted to dress them up a little bit. So I made these three candle holders. So I cut three of these candle holders and I wanted to make all three of them different. I wanted to use slightly different building methods as well. All of these are 100% done on the CNC. There's no lathe needed, no other special tools than a CNC. But if you've got the CNC, you can try making a different project like this. I think it's super cool. I think it's super easy too, and I'll bet you it's even faster than doing it the conventional way. So for these two, I used a tapered ball nose bit, and the geometry of the edge of that tapered ball nose bit is what gives you the profile on these candle holders. That is dictated by that angle of your tapered ball nose, so depending on what size bit you use, what kind of degree you have on that, will determine the actual side profile and the geometry of these. I did an entire video where I made a vase just using a tapered ball nose bit. I'll leave a link to that video up there. These two are slightly different. This one here, this one was pretty labor intensive. This is a segmented candle holder. So with this one, you have to cut all the individual little, what would they be? They're not rhomboids. Whatever they are, you have to cut that specific shape, glue them back together, and then put it on the CNC and cut your profile. This one here was a little bit easier. Instead of cutting these into the different segments, I left these pieces whole and just cut them out of some 1/2-inch material. And then this one here was the most complex to set up, but actually the easiest to make. This one is done with the molding toolpath in Vectric. I just use the desktop model, so I don't have the Pro or Aspire or any of the super expensive ones. I just have the introductory level there. But you can design all of this stuff with the molding toolpath. And if you guys haven't jumped into that, it can be a little daunting at first, but as soon as you get it, it's going to make so much sense to you. Todd on the Vectric website, he's one of the Vectric team members. He goes into the molding toolpath and he's doing all kinds of cool stuff. So this one, you can see it has a nice hourglass shape to it. It's got a nice gradual arc to it. Now that you can't do with just a tapered ball nose because you are stuck with one actual geometry. But with this style, you can make this scallop in and out and curve and get that great hourglass look. So every project starts with wood selection. I've got a pretty nice pile of wood up here. I decided on some of this spalted, wormy, hand-me-down white oak. The end of it was pretty punky here, so I cut that off. Didn't want to use that. And the rest of this wood here, it had a little bit of bark inclusion. You can see it right there. But I think the good part's about a 1/2 inch thick. So I'm just going to plane this down, get this down to about 1/2 inch thick. As I'm planing this, you can see all the different details, all the little defects that make this wood just absolutely perfect. I've got all the wood planed down, machined down, and I've got it glued and taped down to some sacrificial waste boards. I just got all these weights on here, anything I could find around the shop that had some weight to it, some heft to it. And now I have both pieces ready to go, ready to set them over on the CNC. You can see some of that just great spalting in there. See a little bit of them wormholes. I think this is going to turn out perfect. Over to the CNC we go. It's got to cut all of these trapezoids out of this wood here. I've got all different sizes, and the way I laid these out were kind of top to bottom and left to right, so that way I can keep the different sizes together. You can see I lost a couple there. I didn't tape them down quite well enough to this board. That's not a big deal. I can cut some more down there on that bottom right section. You can see there's some good wood left there, but got them all pulled off, and then I've got a pile over there of the ones that didn't make it. So I just need to recut those. That's not that big of a deal here. You can see I've got a leftover piece of that, and I'm just cutting out some of the pieces that lost. I think I only ended up losing 4 pieces, which is not that bad for as many of them as I had to cut. And now this begins the assembly portion. I've got all my rubber bands there ready to go. I've got all my pieces separated into their individual sizes. You can see in all this wood there's all kinds of different variances in the character and the grain and the wormholes. So as I assemble these, I will try to take that into account, and I will flip them over and try to spread out that character as much as possible. I'll just set up here with my wood glue, squeeze these pieces together, make sure I get a pretty good amount of glue squeeze out there. Struggle a little bit there with the rubber bands, but once you get one on there, it's a lot easier to get the second. And then I'll just clean off any kind of squeeze out, get off any kind of sawdust or anything on the bottom of that. And you can see there now I got a disc ready to go. Fast forward about 20 minutes. I've got all of these glued up and ready to go. So I'll let these sit overnight. And then the next morning I'll come in, I will put down some sandpaper and start sanding. Alright, it's the next morning. I'm going to tape down some sandpaper, that way it doesn't move on me. I'll take all these out of the rubber bands. I lost quite a bit of these rubber bands. They're pretty cheap, but I'll have to buy a new bag when I go to do the next one. And then I'll just sit here and I'll sand both faces of these, make sure I get them pretty flat. You don't want any kind of glue squeeze out, any sawdust. You don't want any of the imperfections sitting proud of the surface, because when you put all these together, you want to have them squeezed together real nice so there's no gaps. Those of you interested in making these for yourselves, you can head down to the description below the video and pick up that file. Included in that file will be everything you need to make these yourselves. It'll have any important instructions, and it will also have the VCarve program that you can upload right into your version of VCarve and get to cutting. So doing it this way on the CNC, you have to make sure you have perfect alignment, and that's what I'm doing right here. I'm just using a 30-degree V-bit, and I'm just scoring these crosshairs onto this sacrificial board. This is what I'm going to use the tape and CA glue method to adhere all of these segmented rings down to this wasteboard, and then I'll be able to set my CNC up knowing that it's going to start from exact center. Taping these down with some masking tape and some CA glue. I'm going to get this all lined up, get it exactly how I want it, and hit this with some accelerator. And then that way I know I'm ready to go. You can see here I've got all of the crosshairs onto this wasteboard, and I've got all the individual segments intersecting that, so I'm ready to go. Once I set my XYZ0, using that tapered ball nose bit to cut my outside profile of each individual ring. You can see these don't take all that long. That's 38 seconds per ring. That's not very long at all, guys. I wanted the top and the bottom profile to be a little bit thicker, so I'm actually going to layer 2 of these rings up. So I needed to cut some more, so that's what you see right there. Once those are out of the rubber bands, I'm actually just going to glue these together with some wood glue. I'm going to put them on there, kind of spin them around, kind of get them all squeezed out, get all that glue out there, and then I will just clamp these, and now I have a 1-inch thick piece that I can set over on my CNC. So this part here is pretty cool. This is me using that molding toolpath I was talking about, and I'm just using a straight 1/4-inch ball nose bit, and that's just going to go over here and it's going to cut this profile. Whatever profile you want it to cut, it'll do that. So it's slowly scalloping out toward the bottom. It's going to be wider than it is there on the top. And this takes about, I don't know, 3 minutes, 30 seconds, maybe 4 minutes total. But the end result is just awesome. So if you've done your job and you've glued this thing down correctly, you can pop off that outer ring, pop off your piece, and there it is. You can see that side profile there. Kind of tapers outward and then kind of back up. I think that's perfect for this candle. Speaking of candle, it's time to cut the pocket in the top of this candle holder. I've just got this down to my wasteboard here with some painter's tape and some CA glue. You can see that does a real nice job. You just cut that little pocket there and you can test your candle and get it how you want. It's just a preview of all these pieces going together. I'm just gonna dry stack these, make sure I get the alignment exactly how I want it. And that is a benefit of doing it this way. With these pieces not glued together, you can twist them, arrange them, flip them, swap them, do whatever you want to get that final result you're looking for. This is that second style candle holder, the Christmas themed one. I'm just using some 1/2 inch thick maple and some 1/2 inch thick Padauk. And then here at the end, I want to use that molding toolpath to cut the top and the bottom. So I'm cutting that out of some 7/8 inch thick piece of maple. That 1/4 inch ball nose does a great job with this molding toolpath, leaves a very smooth finish. And once again, I've got this flipped over and I've got this one secured a little bit better onto the CNC wasteboard here, but I'm just going to cut the maple and the Padauk both to fit the recess pockets for my candle holder. And here's where a little bit of artistic freedom comes in. You can decide to assemble these any way you want. I'm trying this 2 different ways, seeing which one I like better. You've got this first one here where it's 1-in-1, maple and Padauk, and then you've got this one here where I'm stacking 2 of them together to try to get that same thickness as the top and the bottom. I think I like the one on the left better. I think this right here is a better final result. What's great about this is I have a maple on one end and a Padauk on the other end. So if I have a white candle, I can have the Padauk piece at the top. And if I have a red candle, I can flip it over and put that maple at the top. So this particular candle holder, this was the motivation for this video, a channel that I subscribe to and watch all the time. And if you guys don't, you should. It's Frank Howarth. He has a great channel and he cut some Christmas themed candle holders over the holiday season. He found the shape that he wanted to do in a hobby store, so he just mimicked that shape. When he cut his and made his, he did it the conventional way with a table saw sled and a wedgie sled. And then he glued all his pieces back together and he put his on a lathe and he did all his final contouring on the lathe. This was done 100% on the CNC only. This final candle holder here is done with the molding toolpath. So I have 1 bit and 1 bit only. That is a 1/4 inch ball nose bit. Once you set it up into your program, all of this is easy. This is just some 1/2 inch pre-milled wood I got from the big box store. You can cut these out, but as you stack these, you can see that nice arc, that great hourglass figure on that thing. It looks great. And once you add a little bit of oil, I mean, check that out. You've got the grain going in different directions. You have an incredibly smooth hourglass profile to that. I absolutely love it.